What's good, YouTube? It's me, Squid, back in another video. I have a list of cards that I curated. I think you guys should be picking these up. Now, some of these are a little bit early to be picking up, but from what I've seen in the OCG, these cards are probably going to be played in some capacity. At least some of them are speculation, but you know, there's a chance that they'll be good. So without further ado, let's dive in, starting at the top. Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Why this card? Well, we already know it has some niche application in the current format against Snake Eyes, predominantly against some of the boards that they're setting up. You know, if they have something like an IP Masquerena and they're trying to play during your turn, you can just chain Ghost Ogre to get rid of the IP so their Link Summon does not go through. You can also chain it to something like an Appaloosa, because Appaloosa is only once per chain. And if it does not lose 800 attack, it means that it does not able to negate the actual effect it's responding to. So if they go chain link to Appaloosa to your monster effect, you can chain the Ghost Ogre and then destroy it, which solves a lot of problems. And a lot of the time, the Appaloosa is not actually made off of the IP Masquerena, but if it is, that's something you need to watch out for, because then it cannot be destroyed by card effects. But moving on, this card also has some application against the Fire King stuff, predominantly Fire King Island, especially if they have a naked island on the field without Sanctuary back behind it. And this does happen quite often anytime that you pair the Ghost Ogre with another hand trap. Generally, they do have to actually use the Snake Eye Ash or the Snake Eye Oak to send off the Sanctuary as free fodder to summon out the Flamberg Dragon, which means that by the time they do activate the Fire King Island, it will not have anything to protect it. Now, there are also a trend among players cutting Sanctuary completely, which just makes Ghost Ogre that much more lethal, because again, you're responding to the Fire King Island, you pop it, Fire King Island's mandatory trigger effect has to pop and RAIGEKI your opponent's entire board. So this does have a lot of applications in the metagame, but even more so after Legacy of Destruction comes out, because there's a new tier 1 deck that's threatening the OCG metagame and it's tearing it up completely. It's actually a Go Second deck called the Tenpai Sangan Dragons. How this deck works is it's basically a battle phase oriented deck that is actually tier 1. Yes, off one single card, the card that you're seeing on screen right now, you can actually deal over 35,000 damage in combination with the synchros that they have and Trident Dragon, who allows you to attack 3 times. So yes, going second with this deck is actually a huge trend in the OCG metagame, and predominantly their one field spell called Brimming Sangan Manor is their search card that allows them to search for the one card starter, aka the white dragon here, Dragon Badora, that you can actually stop with Ghost Ogre, which hurts their consistency a lot, because basically they have the field spell starter, and I believe they also have like a quick play spell card as well. Those are like the only real starters, so being able to stop the field spell completely just shuts off that potential for OTK, and a lot of OCG players are trending towards playing Ghost Ogre for that reason. So if you guys want to bling out your Ghost Ogres, now's the time to do it before they actually go up in price. Pick up your QCRs or whatever, your ultimate rares, now's the time to do it. Moving on, Lightning Storm, as well as board wipes like RAIGEKI. We just talked about the Tenpai Dragon deck. How does this deck work? Well, again, it's an OTK deck. All you have to do is clear the entire pass so you can attack directly, which means you will be dealing upwards of 30k damage off of 1.5 cards. All you need is a Badora plus the field spell to discard a card, and you're off to the races. So a lot of the OCG decks that I've seen on the internet right now are actually going second and playing these powerful board wipes like Lightning Storm, RAIGEKI, and also Super Polymerization. Basically any sort of cheap removal to kind of clear the field. If you guys remember back in the day, we had like the Bubble Beat OTK, which also played cheap removal cards like Compulsory Evacuation Device. This is kind of like the same technique here. You just want to clear the path and then just push through your monsters and attack for game. So the deck can play through a lot of hand traps because you have a lot of combinations that you can actually use with the combo pieces. So it's just really easy as long as you can clear the monsters to attack for game. So these cards, if you guys want to bling them now, now's the time to get them before people actually start playing them. And the nice thing about Lightning Storm is it actually is somewhat playable against the other decks in the metagame right now. It's like not horrible, you know, even against like the Voiceless Voice deck, this does actually clear the back row. It clears things like Summon Limit too, which is a powerful back row card that everyone seems to be on right now. And I just hate this card. I hope it gets banned. But if it doesn't get banned, you can use Lightning Storm to pop it.
Really quickly, if you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button at the bottom. It'll go a long way to support the channel. Other than that, thanks a lot for tuning in.
Next, let's talk about this card, Dimensional Barrier. This card is absolutely insane. Now, against The existing decks right now, we have decks like Voiceless that will actually be very, very powerful, so you can just call Ritual and shut them down completely. We also have random branded players running around with branded fusion in their decks, and if you guys have ever played branded, you'll know that D-Barrier is literally like a game-ending card that has zero counterplay besides something crazy like a Crossout Designator. Well, it just happens that Dimensional Barrier does hit the Sangan Tenpai deck because these guys like to synchro. These guys actually have 2 synchros that they use during their combo to extend and also to deal insane amounts of damage. So calling synchro will prevent you from getting OTK'd because they're also not going to be able to go to the Trident Dragon, which is dealing like, you know, a huge chunk of the damage with a whopping 9k attack if he attacks 3 times. And D-Barrier has so much crossover that it takes care of everything. And if there's a random Sword Soul player at your locals, you're literally going to be their worst nightmare. But again, D-Barrier being able to hit all of the rogue decks, plus this new dragon deck coming out in Legacy of Darkness means that, or Legacy of Destruction? I don't know. Well, it means that this card is going to be good. So pick up your QCR copies while you still can. This card is really, really powerful. Another card that was actually caught my eye was Discord. Now, I don't necessarily think this card will be any good, but it's an option that you can play against the Dragon deck because this says neither player can Synchro Summon, and then it lasts for 3 whole turns. So it's effectively a floodgate that's very, very one-sided as long as you're playing a non-synchro deck. And, you know, there are some obscure printings of this. I don't think it's really been reprinted a lot besides Dual Terminal and a Super Rare, so maybe it's something you guys can pick up on. And yeah, I'm just gonna actually venture into more obscure territory and say you could play other cards too, like Dragon Capture Jar that says change all face-up dragons to defense mode so they can't OTK you. I do not see this card ever being played, but again, there's some obscure, you know, weird interactions where maybe this is something you consider. Again, remember that the Tenpai Dragon deck is going second at all times, so they're gonna force you to go first, so you will be guaranteed to know what to side in, and if you side in cards like this, it's very, very effective. Now, when you do make your opponent go first, they actually side in a special spice card called Heat Wave that says at the start of the main phase 1, neither player can normal or special summon effect monsters until your next draw phase, effectively being an almost pseudo D-shifter that skips your opponent's turn. So when you force them to go first, they activate Heat Wave, and then they wait till the play is passed back to them. With a clear board, they OTK you, which means that cards like Dragon Capture Jar and maybe Discord, D-Barrier are all going to be good going first, and you're guaranteed to know when you can side it in, even if you win game 1, right? So just some obscure cards to keep note of. Next, there are also some battle phase preventers. You know, you have cards like Threatening Roar that prevents an attack, as well as WABOKU. These cards, I don't think they're as good, obviously, as D-Barrier, but again, they do have some niche interactions in the time aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! You guys all know that the current time rules are absolutely abysmal, and, you know, a lot of games do go into time, because it takes forever. If you're playing like Snake Eyes Fire King, the mirror match takes a long time. There's just so many crucial interactions in this metagame that just trickle down time. Like, people are shuffling decks, searching for cards, fanning out graveyards, doing this, yada yada, a lot of back and forth. So if you're close on time, one of these cards could actually save you. At the same time, you can also hit the Tenpai Dragon deck and prevent yourself from being OTK'd, so that's just something that you can possibly consider. The nice thing about Threatening Roar is it's also playable in older formats, so I mean, the super rares are probably worth infinite, but you know, if you guys wanted to play them for Edison or something else, you could also potentially pick them up to play in Modern. And then lastly, I want to talk about some niche dragon cards that I think might have some utility. Remember, we talked about the interaction where if you're playing the dragon deck when it does come out, people will make you go first so you cannot OTK them. So there are a couple of defensive dragon-specific traps that might be niche or, you know, worthwhile. GUARDRAGON Cataclysm, this is an Icarus attack that says tribute a dragon monster, then target 2 cards on the field, destroy them. So this might be something that's potentially useful, especially if the metagame does have a lot of floodgates or potentially against the, you know, trap-based decks. I just thought this card was really, really interesting. And there's also another card that I read a couple of times and I realized this card could potentially be broken. Dragon's Bind. This is a continuous trap card that reminds me of Vanity's Emptiness. It says activate this card by targeting a dragon-type monster you control with 2,500 or less attack and defense, which is basically all of the normal effect Tenpai Dragons before they go into their synchro iterations. And it says, for the rest of the turn, or for the rest of the duel rather, as long as this card is face up, neither player can special summon monsters with attack less than or equal to the original attack of that monster. When that monster leaves the field, destroy this card, meaning you can easily link off the monster to go into something like a seal, and then from there you are basically turning off your own Vanity's Emptiness. But while it's face up on the board, your opponent is not going to be able to special summon anything with less than equal attack than the monster you target, and a lot of the current cards in the metagame do have very small attack value. Like Poplar is very, very tiny. You even cards like Low that have to be special summoned back from the graveyard that have very tiny attack. So this is almost like a very one-sided Vanity's Emptiness if you're able to pull it off. And if people are telling you to go first, then maybe this is something that could potentially be considered in the near future. It only comes in common, but it hasn't had a reprint in a long time. So maybe this is the type of card that you guys want to pick up in anticipation for a potential tech with the Dragon deck. That's all I had for this video. What do you guys think? Are there any other cards that you think are currently going to be good? Because I think like the metagame is really stale right now. Everything's kind of been discovered for the current iteration, at least from what I've seen, and we're not really getting a lot of big events in the near future. So yeah, I'm just kind of anticipating, you know, what's going to be good by looking at the OCG recipes on the internet so far. Guys, let me know what you think. Let me know, comment below. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.